Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're opening up quite a remarkable source stack. It's centered around someone who seems to be really challenging how things are usually done in, well, a pretty transactional industry, mortgage lending. We're talking about Megan Cloud. She's a producing branch manager and vice president at V.I.P Independent Mortgage. Apparently, people affectionately call her the mortgage unicorn. So our mission today, we want to get past the impressive sales figures, and really unpack the mechanism behind her success. What do these sources tell us about her philosophy? How does she manage to be in the nation's elite and position her work as like a genuine community service and education?
It's a really compelling set of documents, yeah. But because they kind of force you to rethink how we even define achievement in finance, right? Megan Cloud, she's been helping people achieve homeownership in San Antonio, Texas since 2009. But the big headline here, the thing that really grabs you for this deep dive, is her latest award. She's the recipient of the 2025 D2 Strong Community Pathfinder for Progress Award. And that specific award, well, it signals we need to shift how we look at this. We're not just counting closed deals here. We're analyzing a business model that seems designed for systemic community improvement. It's recognized for driving measurable progress through more equitable access to capital. That's really the lens we need to use.
Okay, got it. So let's start unpacking this maybe where a traditional analysis would. The hard numbers. Because let's be honest, you can't have that kind of community impact without being excellent at the core job. And the sources definitely confirm that. She's recognized among the top 1% of mortgage professionals in the nation, and she's been on San Antonio's top lenders list for, what, over a decade now? So that high-volume, high-performance status, that's pretty undeniable.
It is, absolutely. But what's interesting is how quickly the documents pivot away from just that data. They really stress that the true definition of her success for her and her team isn't found in the loan volume. It's measured by the stability of the lives they impact. That's an unusual metric for top performers in lending, isn't it?
Then this leads us straight into her core philosophy. She sees every single transaction as something much bigger than just an item on a spreadsheet. For the Cloud team, every mortgage apparently represents more than a house. It's a story of hope, stability, and legacy. That kind of language, it's very intentional. It elevates the whole process from just processing paperwork into something more like a calling, you could say.
That is powerful framing. But, okay, it makes me wonder about the nickname, the unicorn. Why that specifically? Does it imply it's rare to achieve that huge sales volume while focusing so much on service and education and, long-term stuff? Is that the idea? That seems to be exactly the implication, yes. It points to the rarity of her whole operational model. I mean, let's face it, the industry standard often incentivizes speed, volume, maybe not so much deep client education. The sources suggest the Cloud team hits high volume, definitely, but they seem to achieve it because of their commitment, not in spite of it, because of integrity, transparency, gratitude, things like that. It sounds like clients stick around. They refer others precisely because that ethical foundation is solid. It points to a long-term, relationship-driven approach. And scaling that to the top 1% level, that's exceptionally difficult.
Right. Okay. So the integrity and the long-term view are the bedrock. Let's move into our second section then and look at how this philosophy shapes the actual business vision. If lending is really redefined as a form of service, what does that practically mean for how they operate?
Well, the vision seems to mandate a focus on maximizing opportunity for the client, not just maximizing the number of files they close. She seems to firmly believe that homeownership is the essential cornerstone of stability and opportunity, especially maybe for families who've historically been underserved or perhaps even gotten into tricky financial situations before. So the service model means ensuring the client isn't just approved, but they're actually prepared to sustain that home ownership for the long haul, for decades even.
Okay, that sounds great, the ideal scenario. But let me play devil's advocate for just a second here. Philosophy is one thing, right? But doesn't spending all those team resources on mentorship, education, personalized prep, doesn't that naturally slow things down? How does the team keep that top 1% status if they're investing time in non-transactional support?
That's a key question, absolutely. And the D2 Strong Community Pathfinder Award actually gives us a clue. Remember, it recognizes meaningful, measurable change. The sources seem to imply their efficiency isn't just about processing faster. It's about achieving higher long-term success rates for their clients. So the measurable change isn't only getting people keys to a house. It's things like lower default rates down the road, better asset preservation, homeowners who feel more confident and are financially stable. That's the impact. For instance, they mentioned focusing on education right from the start means fewer nasty surprises later. They tackle complex Texas-specific issues, like understanding, say, escalating property taxes right up front. This kind of proactive work, it minimizes crises later, which actually could lead to faster, cleaner closings in the end.
Ah, and
It
crucially,
leads to stable clients who succeed. It's this dedication to equitable access and long-term success that the award recognizes. It prioritizes genuine impact over just quick profit.
okay, that makes sense. The efficiency comes from quality prep, which prevents bigger problems later. And it acknowledges that ripple effect, stable homes leading to stable communities, which brings us to that quote the source is highlighted. Megan Cloud's guiding philosophy. When families feel secure in their homes, entire communities flourish. It completely flips the script, doesn't it? Success isn't just the commission, it's the health of the neighborhood. All right, so we've got the driving philosophy, service, legacy, community health. Now let's shift focus entirely to the how. This is where we dig into the operations. How does the cloud team actually do this? How do they make sure families are building solid financial foundations, not just taking on debt? What are the specific tools they're using?
Yeah, this is where their operations really seem to move beyond lending, as the sources put it. They detail this multi-pronged educational approach. It definitely sounds different from your average brokerage that might focus primarily on just qualifying someone and getting to closing. They seem to understand that just because someone qualifies for a loan doesn't mean they're fully ready for homeownership. So first, they provide pretty intensive education and personalized support. It's specifically tailored to help people navigate really complex financial decisions. This includes deep dives into credit readiness, not just looking at a score, but actually developing plans to repair credit or strategically reduce debt. The goal is to maximize their lending options and get them better interest rates.
So they're actively involved in building capacity before the application is even final. That sounds like it takes a serious commitment of time and resources.
It absolutely does sound like it. And beyond that one-on-one counseling, they use broader community outreach, specifically community workshops and mentorship programs. And these are just generic homebuyer 101 seminars, apparently. They cover very practical, sometimes tricky topics. Things like understanding appraisal gaps, how to really read closing disclosures, and crucially, how to access down payment assistance programs.
Yeah.
FHA, VA loans, things that are vital, especially in the San Antonio market.
That makes total sense. Finding and navigating those specific state or federal assistance programs, that's often a huge hurdle, right? Especially for first-time buyers or maybe lower-income families. So if the cloud team positions themselves as expert guides for those resources, then the service really does become a pathway to opportunity.
Exactly. And they combine these group workshops with that essential personalized service. So the educational foundation might be broad, but the actual strategy is custom fit for each client. For example, they might be counseling a veteran family on really leveraging their specific VA loan benefits, while at the same time helping a first-time buyer navigate, say, a city bond program for down payment assistance. It's this holistic view, ensuring every client gets the right financial strategy for their specific situation.
Listening to this, it sounds much more like comprehensive financial advising that happens to be centered around getting a mortgage rather than just loan brokering.
Mhm.
And the end result of this really engaged educational approach, this is what the sources point to, is creating clear pathways to generational wealth, one home at a time. It's not just about the family buying the house now, it's about ensuring that house can be an asset for their kids down the road.
Precisely. That shift from renting to owning, it's so critical for financial mobility. And the sources really seem to affirm the impact of this model. This deep commitment to building strong foundations hasn't just changed individual family trajectories. The claim is it has actively strengthened neighborhoods and communities throughout Texas. How? By increasing long-term housing stability and the rate of asset ownership, it really tends to confirm that a purpose-driven model, when you execute it with operational excellence, can actually scale to the highest levels of an industry like mortgage lending.
Yeah. As we sort of pull back and look at all this, what really stands out is this powerful blend. It's merging high-level financial know-how with what the sources call heart-centered leadership. It appears to be a genuinely effective operational model, one that creates progress where, as they put it, purpose meets compassion. And that Pathfinder award seems to be the proof in the pudding.
Yeah, and if we take one final thought away from this deep dive, maybe it's a challenge to those traditional metrics of success we talked about at the start. The cloud team model really suggests that if homeownership is truly the cornerstone of community stability, then maybe the most impactful financial professionals aren't just the ones closing the most deals fastest. Maybe they're the ones who prioritize that deep educational investment, who focus on the client's long-term legacy, even if it takes more upfront effort. Their success seems to prove these goals aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, they might even be interdependent.
That's a fantastic way to synthesize it. And it
Yeah.
really encourages you, the listener, to maybe reconsider how you define professional success, maybe even in fields that seem purely transactional. If a mortgage broker can transform lending into legacy building through education and service, think about other industries, insurance, maybe legal services, even wealth management. Could they benefit from adopting a similar service oriented, education first approach? How might their communities change if the primary metrics shifted from just volume to long term client stability and well being? Something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.